spirit of bourbonism, I think it's only appropriate we start off with the native spirit. So I'm David Green, the general manager here at the Louisville Marriott Downtown. It's a pleasure to have you here. And on behalf of Louisville Tourism Commission, we are proud to help sponsor the Louisville Cocktail Competition, along with many other folks that are here today. The gentleman that I'm about to introduce has been instrumental in how this destination has started branding itself. He, a long time ago, took tourism and bourbon and coined them into a phrase of bourbonism. And it has been a change in our destination. It is how we market this destination. We were lucky enough to be at a very significant trade show in New York last week. Absolutely the most popular table there was our table because we were handing out little bottles of bourbon and everybody wanted to know more about Louisville. So very, very important. So with the help of the mayor finding that swim lane and now really exploiting that and promoting it and living it is really changing the face of Louisville. And moving forward, this next step, I think, is going to take us even further. Since 2011, downtown now there are 10 urban bourbon distilleries that promote tourism. It's a $9 billion industry for us. Very, very significant to the community. The $262 million in capital has been invested in Louisville around bourbon and bourbonism to help identify this community and create the interest around the world that we have started to see. So it's my honor to introduce to you the father of bourbonism. I don't think that's very funny. I think it's the real deal. The father of bourbonism, Louisville Mayor Greg Fisher. Pleasure to have you here.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Let's see. Does this work without the mic? Can you guys hear me? You need it? Okay. All right, good. Well, yeah, I've been called many things as mayor, so I'll take father of bourbonism, Chris. It's taken us all to do that. But, okay, so this is a really fun event that we have for us. And I am going to indulge in what, like I see with master distillers all the time. And that is if you're around a couple master distillers, Chris, are you the only one we have with us that's official? So when I hear you guys talking with each other, I mean, the stories are outlandish. They're non-believable. And when I commented on that, I could only take it for so much. It was about 15 minutes or so. This was like 5 years ago. And I said to these guys, can I just ask you guys something? I mean, you guys are really full of BS. And I used the actual word, and they just stopped and they looked at me and they said, Mayor, in this industry, we call that folklore. All right, so this is going to be a little bit of the folklore and a little bit of the blarney that comes if you've got an Irish heritage that I do. But welcome, everybody, for what's going to be a really wonderful announcement here today. We're at the dawn of a new day for our beloved city. Yeah, that's right. A day in which we are determined to further establish Louisville's place in the municipal firmament of legendary libations, joining Manhattan, Moscow, Long Island, Singapore, and a few others in that exclusive club. So, why should these be the only cities that have cocktails attached to their names? Of course, the Manhattan, that's pretty self-explanatory, the Moscow Mule, Long Island Iced Tea, and the Singapore Sling. So as I was gathered with some friends last year, I overheard somebody saying, bartender, I'd like a Manhattan. And I thought, why in the world do we here in Louisville, the epicenter of bourbon, not have a cocktail named after us? Injustice, I thought. We already have considerable fame as the home of the old-fashioned, but why should we limit ourselves? So that brings us to today, this legendary moment. We're already renowned as the birthplace of Muhammad Ali, the host of Kentucky Derby, home to the Louisville Slugger, and a 30-foot tall statue of David on Main Street. We are now in search of a drink I expect will become synonymous with our city and our beloved and diverse, delightful bourbon wherever bourbon is served. So a drink that no matter where you belly up to the bar, whether it be Louisville, Buenos Aires, London, Dubai, or Shanghai, that patron, thirsty for a quality whiskey, will say to the bartender, "Bartender, give me a Louisville." That's right, a cocktail named for our beloved city, the Louisville. How does it sound to you? So this represents a bit of unfinished business for me in my last 6 months as mayor, setting the world stage for these 4 words: I'll have a Louisville. So creating a signature drink like this is good for the city that I've loved and I've led over the last 11 and a half years, because it's good for business and it's good to spread the brand of Louisville. And as somebody that intricately involved in the launch of Bourbonism and the Urban Bourbon Trail here in Louisville, I'm thrilled to help further enhance the profile of the amber spirit that's all the rage in global tourism and in glasses all over the world. Everyone will know the story of how the Louisville came to be, unlike the Manhattan. And as you research the appellation of the Manhattan and how it came to be, historians just say, it's inconclusive. Not so for the Louisville. 17 bourbon brands will be announced today, and you might have an indication of what these 17 brands are as participants in this competition. The participating distillers are sponsoring famed, or soon-to-be famed, mixologists competing to come up with a winning concoction, which of course will be called the Louisville. It will be announced at Bourbon and Beyond in September. And all that is required is that the drink, of course, includes only Kentucky bourbon, which, of course, we all know is the only real kind of bourbon that there is. Let's see, hold on a second here. This is an awkward podium. So, we've got some great judges for this creation of this next great drink. So, as I was thinking about the bourbon, and I was thinking about the Louisville, I don't want you to all think I was like overthinking this, but I was thinking, who could I call to see, is this a good idea or is this just something I thought about over a drink? So the first person I called to brainstorm with was Fred Minnick. And Fred, of course, is the world's foremost authority on bourbon and is one of our great citizens here. He's on vacation or else he'd be here. He said to say hi. And so we met at Jack Fry's, had lunch there, and we decided this is worth pursuing. Now, we also decided at that first meeting that it was essential for this extravaganza to have Karen Williams as our lead. We needed somebody to actually, come on, Karen, will you help us actually do the work? Karen has never shied away from work and great ideas as well, but she had to be involved because Karen was really helpful in our first bourbon and local food group that we did with a bunch of folks in this room, probably, I don't know when that was, probably 2015 or something like that. We set 5-year goals for bourbonism, and we accomplished those in 3 years, which hardly ever happens when you set goals. So Karen was intricately involved with that and getting everybody to work together, the Kentucky Distillers Association, all the different bourbon brands, tourism, et cetera. So Karen had to be part of the team. So right now, I'm very pleased to introduce Karen Williams, former president and CEO of Louisville Tourism. Her accomplishments are many and legendary in the field of tourism and civic participation, including bringing bourbonism to life here in Louisville and the Commonwealth and the country and the world. Karen is the chair of the Louisville Cocktail Committee and leads the team that is organizing this cocktail competition. If there were a mother of bourbonism, Karen would be it. Let's hear it for Karen Williams. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, as we all know, we cannot say no to the mayor, right? And as he said, I'm retired, but I came out, of course I am already working a new job, but I came out for this because I am all about bourbon. You know, the mayor's been talking about this, gosh, Mayor, since we talked about the food and bourbon group. So it didn't take long for me to say, absolutely, I want to be a part of this. And I'm going to talk about the committee here just for a second. But if you think about it, as the mayor said, it is so true. My husband, and I love all bourbons, but I'm looking straight here at Chris. You know, everywhere he goes, his drink of choice is the Manhattan. But it's not going to be any longer. It's going to be the Louisville, for sure. But he goes bellies up to every bar and says, I want a Manhattan straight up with double oak, Woodford Reserve. That is his drink of choice. He has all the other bourbons, but he loves them. But that's what he says. So now, and you'll hear about this with the committee and our how the committee rules, it is about Kentucky bourbons. So it'll be the Louisville with their Kentucky bourbon of choice. But let me tell you about this great committee. It's small, but mighty. Trust me, very small, but mighty. You heard Fred Minnick. He is on this. As the mayor said, he is in St. Lucia right now, I'm sure, thinking of us. I very doubt that. Emily Lidden, who's in the mayor's office, right here. Emily, right here. She's been great. Chris Blanford, you're going to hear from Chris. He is formerly, he's actually with Kroger's. And Chris has been great. Every email, which we're on 24/7, and all of us, by the way, have other day jobs. Chris and Doris and I have been really going after these bourbons, and we apologize right now. Sorry we've been hassling you, but it has been worth it, and Chris has been on it. And then last but not least, I have to mention my dear friend, Doris and I worked together for almost 30 years, Doris Sims. She is almighty. She is with WP. She has been great. She retires like I do and goes right to work with DWP. So this is only, as Amir said, just about 5 months ago he came to us. So we've done a lot in 5 months. So excuse me while I read for the media. This is how you had to go and be an entry. The entry requirements were, and you'll be able to see this on the website. You had to, of course, be, as Amir said, a Kentucky bourbon brand can choose a bartender or mixologist to compete. It's whomever they wanted. Competition was open to any bartender mixologist in the United States that they may have worked with. They must have been 21 years of age. Cocktail must include a Kentucky bourbon as the base spirit. Only one cocktail recipe per bourbon brand may be submitted. Each cocktail must be an original creation and should bring out the flavors of Louisville, Kentucky. Cocktail recipe must be scaled for a single serving. All ingredients should be readily available at most bars. Preparation and mixing instructions must be included with their recipe and demonstrated by a bartender mixologist in a 3-minute video that tells the story behind the recipe. There were a total, as the mayor said, of 17 entrants. And the committee, because they all applied the rules very well, very exciting and very interesting, are all semifinalists. So, with that, the committee also said, we're so pleased to announce that a portion of the funds raised through the competition will be donated to the United States Bartender Guild to support the Kentucky bartenders. We all know too well through COVID that many of the bartenders, not only in our restaurants and all over the bars, had a very difficult time and still going through that. The USBG believes in serving those that serve us and provide great support to bartenders all across the country. So, I sincerely want to thank this small and mighty committee again. Our work's not done. And I also want to thank the mayor for letting us be part of this history. Thank you, Mayor.
Karen Williams. Yeah, this is, I ask people just to do things, and they say yes, usually. But Karen's an extraordinary citizen, and everybody on the team, thank you, Em, Doris, Fred. Did I get everybody? And Chris is on the team, too, as well. Chris had this huge write-up in the Courier-Journal today, too. So, but thanks, everybody. I mean, they're just doing it because they love bourbon, they love the city, and let's face it, this is fun. Okay, you know, in the mayor's job and in all's job, we do a lot of stuff that's not as fun as this, so when fun things come along, we jump right in. And so it was also good then when we wanted to secure world-famous judges to be part of the competition. So we got a great list of judges and sponsors for this competition. There are 5 judges. Fred Minnick, of course, world known for his palate and expertise regarding bourbon and other spirits. Samara Davis, she's the CEO and founder of the Black Bourbon Society. Chris Santos, famous chef judge from Chopped. And Peggy No Stevens, right over here. That's right. Famous Louisvillian, master bourbon taster, and member of the Bourbon Hall of Fame. Peggy is an incredible citizen as well, but has contributed so much to the industry of bourbon. So thank you, Peggy. So that's 4. Who do you think the 5th judge is going to be? That's right. I said, I am going to exercise executive privilege, and I'm going to make myself the 5th judge here on this panel of judges. So let's hear it for the judges we got here. All right, none of this would be possible, too, without our equally impressive sponsors. David Green, I want to thank you for hosting us here today at the Marriott and all the ways that you've transformed your hotel over these last couple years into an even more of a world-class destination. So thank you. I want to thank Danny Wimmer Presents, Louisville Tourism, Louisville Marriott Downtown, and our presenting sponsor, the Kroger Company. Thank you, Ann Reed and Aaron Grant, for being with us here today. And a bunch of the DWP team is here as well. Doris, Marty, Danny, and Danny. I hope you guys are watching somewhere. And I want to say Danny Wimmer Presents has played an extraordinarily important role in putting bourbonism on the global map. So in 2016, we decided we need to have a bourbon and food festival. I mean, it's not unusual to have wine and food festivals, but there really was not in the country or in the world a great bourbon and food festival. So we put the call out, and we got some ideas back, and Danny Wimmer and Danny Hayes were kind of watching all this because they had started Louder Than Life in Louisville a couple years before that, and we have a partnership with them on a bunch of things and have become friends over the years. So they approached me and just said, to be polite, they felt like the food and festival ideas just kind of lacked ambition. They were not worthy of what bourbon represented to the world and what it could represent even more. So I said, okay, it's easy to be critical. Do you guys have an idea? And they said, yeah, we do have a little idea. And I said, well, tell me about that. And they said, well, it's a little festival we want to call Bourbon and Beyond. And so they laid out their vision for Bourbon and Beyond, which was on a scale that we really didn't think was possible at the beginning. But that's really then how we launched the Bourbon and Food Festival with Bourbon and Beyond in 2017. And of course, it's an extraordinary festival for the great food, great bourbon, obviously great music. Put on hold during the pandemic. We're really excited to see it coming back. So they are one of our sponsors, but a special shout out and thanks to the Danny Wimmer production team and Danny Hayes. That's right. Also, I want to thank the Kentucky Distillers Association and their CEO, Eric Gregory, for their assistance in reaching out to their members, many of whom are in the competition. When you think about the KDA and all that they've kind of had to put their arms around these past couple of years with the growth of bourbon and bourbon tourism, they've done a heck of a job. And of course, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being maxed out, I think Louisville and bourbonism is probably still a 2 or 3. In other words, we got a lot of growth left in us here. because demand far exceeds supply for great bourbon and great bourbon tourism experiences as well. So I want to thank KDA for being in the middle of that. And then, of course, Louisville tourism has just been incredible all throughout this as well. So now I'd like to introduce Chris Blanford. Chris is the adult beverage field specialist for the Kroger Company, who's here to tell us a little bit more about the participants. Chris, I want to thank you for your important role in this as well and the wonderful spirit that you bring to this competition. Please welcome Chris Blanford.
Thank you all. So, father of bourbonism, right? So, do we still call you mayor or father? Is that how we refer now? Just question. So, thank you guys for joining us. My name is Chris Blanford. I am the adult beverage field specialist for Kroger, and honored to be named this year's bourbon curator for Bourbon and Beyond. At Kroger, At Kroger, our purpose is to feed the human spirit and serve the communities where we operate our stores. Kroger's been in the Louisville area for over 90 years, and we take pride in this unique community. We have so much to offer, and the Louisville Cocktail Competition is another perfect way to share what makes Louisville so special. At Kroger, we're focused on making the spirits industry accessible to everyone who loves it. You'll find the incredible bourbon brands participating in the competition on Kroger shelves at great prices, and excited to be a part of creating history for something truly unique to Louisville. So it's my great pleasure to announce the 17 participating bourbon brands who will compete in the semifinal round. First, Angel's Envy. That's right, you can cheer. Bardstown Bourbon Company. Basil Hayden. Bullet Bourbon. Evan Williams, 1783. Green River Bourbon. Jim Beam. Knob Creek. Maker's Mark 46. Michter's US 1 Bourbon. Monk's Road Bourbon. Old Forester and Woodford Reserve. Peerless Small Batch Bourbon. Pinhook Bourbon. Silver Belly. Wild Turkey. And William Tarr Bourbon. As you can see, we have all of these bottles right up here on display for everybody that's competing into the tournament. We can't wait to see what recipes come from this competition, and customers can guarantee that these items will all be available on your Kroger shelves to make these great cocktails at home. Thank you very much, and cheers.
Thanks, Chris. And thanks again to Kroger. Read this article in the Courier-Journal today if you get a chance. It's on the, I think, living section or whatever section D, front page of the food section. It really paints a wonderful story, not just of Chris, but of Kroger, and how they have really taken their position as a leader in bourbon retailing super seriously with super creative ways to go about doing this great innovation, customized per each market. So, as you know, a lot of people want to know where to find the best bourbons, and Kroger's doing a heck of a job with that. So kudos to you guys, and Chris, thanks for doing a great job on that. Okay, so here's what's happening. Fan voting for the Louisville will open up on August the 12th. So I encourage bourbon lovers the world over to get involved and cast your vote for the Louisville so we can announce the 5 finalists on August the 29th. So that's the next big day, August the 29th. Then the grand finale, the final round of competition for the cocktail, soon to be forever famous, known as the Louisville. That will be announced, judged and announced at Bourbon and Beyond on September the 16th. So that's going to be a big day in the history of our city and possibly the world. Yeah. Really? I mean, yes, this is my attempt at humor, okay? All right, so before we get to the questions, I'll leave you with these words about our friendly competition from Fred. And for those of you all that know Fred Minnick, Fred can be contemplative at times. He really enjoys our city value of compassion and meshing that with bourbon. So fellow judge Fred Minnick said this in closing: bourbon transcends ingredients and brand names. It embodies a culture, a feeling, and a sense of unity that draws friends together and brings foes together for peace. So this is the goal for the Louisville, to bring people together for good times and celebrate great bourbon and our wonderful city. So you all get voting. All right, thanks everybody. All right, thank you to the media for covering this, and have some fun with it, please. And any questions from the media?
Let's say Old Forester is chosen. With the other ingredients, and if you go to a different restaurant, wherever it may be in the country, Old Forester would be the bourbon that would be used for that drink, or would it just be bourbon in general?
Karen, I'll defer to you on this. I don't want to, she's the chairperson of this.
Joel, it would just be bourbon in general. And that'll be explained at, Chris, excuse, Kentucky, right. Chris, thank you. This is, right. Thank you. Chris Morris, thank you. This is a contest just for Kentucky bourbon, and the Louisville cocktail will just be Kentucky bourbon. This contest, we are going to choose a winner with one of these distilleries that were mentioned, but that will be the winner that day, but it'll be any Kentucky bourbon.
I think, though, Joel, when you think about the old-fashioned, I mean, like, if you're on the search for a perfect old-fashioned, you know, it's a very elusive search, because, I mean, each old-fashioned is different, right, between the bitters and the bourbon and everything else that goes into these things. So I imagine the same thing's going to happen with the Louisville, I hope. So it'll have that type of exotic flair to it.
They'll be able to kind of pick, when you order, let's say, a Long Island, this place makes a really good Long Island. The basis will be the same, but
Yeah.
Wherever you order it, they can add a little flair as long as the template is.
Yeah, the ingredients are the same. Different Kentucky bourbon might be a little different this or that. I mean, we're not going to be too intense on this. As long as they say the Louisville and it's got Kentucky bourbon, we're good with it. Anything else? Okay, well, cheers, everybody.